Welcome, UCL fans, to our Season 2, Week 11 preview. I'm your host, Fanatic64, and we're here to take a look at the matchups that will be occurring this week for the 11th week of Season 2. They, of course, are going down tomorrow, Saturday, September 24th. Yes, for September 24th. But if you do enjoy this video, I hope you leave it a thumbs up. Let me know down below what matchup you're going to be looking forward to this week. And, of course, don't forget to let me know who you're rooting for as well. So let's go ahead and just jump right into this. Starting off, we have our first matchup we're taking a look at is the Grand Canyon Greninjas, who are 1-9, taking on the South Beach Slow Kings, who are 2-8. Definitely, like, I've started switching these up. Usually I would just look at the lineups and just go down or up one week. This time I actually looked at the not necessarily least irrelevant, but like the matchups that aren't going to affect playoffs in any way, shape, or form, going to the ones that are going to affect the playoffs. So, Grand Canyon Greninjas 1-9, South Beach Slow Kings 2-8. It's hard to say who's going to end up winning this one for it. If, the Grand Canyon Greninjas learn how to utilize the Mega Charizard X better, then they would definitely have a good chance at winning it. But otherwise, probably going to go towards South Beach Slow Kings this week. In our second matchup, we have the Tulsa Talonflames, who are 1-9, taking on the Philadelphia Alligators at 3-7. Definitely going to be probably a more favoritive matchup for Philadelphia, I would say. Tulsa Talonflames just had a really hard time in matchups this season for it. But we'll just have to kind of wait and see. Maybe they can pull another win out of their hat. But probably going to be a little bit more favorable for Philadelphia in this week. Moving on to our third matchup, we have the Manchester Magnazones, 5-5 against the Long Island Reggie Rockies that are 3-7. Definitely going to be a good matchup to say the least. Like I said, Manchester Magnazones have been very impressive this season, which of course they can only go up from where they were last season, but have done really well. I do think they'll do well this week as well against Long Island, but it's not to say that Long Island won't pull a few tricks out of their hat to, try and actually get the win. As far as who has the better matchup, I would think Manchester Magnazones have just a little bit of a better matchup compared to the Long Island Reggie Rockies, but we'll just have to wait and see how this actually goes down. Moving on to our fourth matchup, we have the Newcastle Nido Kings, who are 4-6, taking on the Bristol City Blazekins at 5-5. Again, another really good matchup here. It's really hard to say how this is going to be called. Newcastle Nido Kings have just had some really tough luck. Last week in season 10 or week 10, I don't know why I keep calling season, but in week 10, they lost in a 1-0 loss, which was so close that they could have possibly ended up winning it at the end, but it just was right out of their reach. Bristol City has done really well as well, winning the last couple of weeks, I believe. So it will definitely be a good matchup. This one's going to be a little bit too close to call, but we'll just have to kind of wait and see how these two teams face off. In our fifth matchup, we have the Toronto Togekiss, who are 4-6, taking on the Tucson Terrakions, who are 5-5. Of course, like I said, unless a miracle happens with some of the later teams coming up, Tucson Terrakions, just like Bristol City Blazekins, and even the, you can even say the Manchester Magnazones, kind of out of playoff contention. The only way would be if two teams lose for the next several weeks and Tucson wins the next several weeks, but all going to be out. But it should be a good matchup, of course. Hidemo has always been coach of the Toronto Togekiss, has always been known to try and play annoyingly, even though they do really well. Since they're probably going to be out, since they're definitely out of playoff contention, just might bring something really fun to mess with the coach of the Tucson Terrakions, the King Nappy. It'll be a fun matchup to say the least for. I cannot wait to actually see this one go down. Our sixth matchup we have the Bronx Bearticks 8-2 going up against the Pittsburgh Pichus, who are 6-4. Pittsburgh Pichus still fighting for a chance to. Again, this is like a potentially make playoff situation for Pittsburgh Pichus. They would have to win every matchup from here on out to really have a possibility of it, as well as they have to hope that two other teams will lose at least 3 to 4 matchups on them for it. But This is going to be a really good one. I cannot wait to see this. One of the anticipated matches I was looking forward to earlier was Pittsburgh versus the Pittsburgh Peaches versus the Real Maril, where unfortunately that match did not take place due to scheduling conflicts. So hopefully, scheduling conflicts and Num Nexus, coach of the Pittsburgh Peaches, oversleeping their scheduled matchup for it. So hopefully, all goes well and this matchup will go down because I think this will be a really good one. A lot of people have turned to both the coach of the Bronx Bear Ticks, Joey Pokey, MD, as well as Num Nexus of the Pittsburgh Peaches for team building advice. So it'll be interesting to see who two of the top team builder, battler, whatever you want to call it, will go up against this week. Really too close to call, but I would not be surprised to see the Bronx Bear Ticks get a win this week. Now, the next two matchups were so big I could not really call one of them a hype match of the week. So these are going to be, for the first time, the hype matches of the week. So two hype matches this week. We're going to start off with the Real Maril, who are 9-1, taking on the St. Louis Rampardos. Now, of course, I don't believe this is the first time these two teams have met before, because, of course, they have both been in the GBA before. I haven't gone back to actually seeing who won during those type-ups, but of course those are completely different teams to what they have now for it. St. Louis Rampardos, again, another team that's kind of has to win every match and hope that at least one other team will lose, because that other team, of course, they do play in a couple weeks as well. St. Louis Rampardos in a desperate win situation if they want to try and keep playoff hopes alive for it. If they win the remaining matchups, then they will make playoffs. If they lose, then there's a good chance they will not make the playoffs then this season. So this one's going to be really clutch. I cannot wait to see this matchup. And then the other hype match of the week, we have the Carolina Keldios 8-2 against the Durham Druddigons. The Carolina Keldios is the kind of X factor for the playoffs for it. Like, looking back at season one, the Carolina Keldios didn't really stand out, so to speak. Like, I'm not saying that they were, what's the word for it? Like, they didn't necessarily do, like, bad work or anything for it. I'm actually trying to go back through my old information on it from season one. If I can find it. Where did we put it? Here. Yes. All right. So I'm going back to season one, and ending rankings. Where back then the Carolina Keldios were only had a record of 6-9. So they've made great improvements, and I feel like I've talked a lot about the Carolina Keldios this season, just because they have been very impressive. I mean, an 8-2 record is nothing to sweat at for it, but as I was saying before, a lot of their matchups that they had have not been against some of the tougher opponents, and this is the start of the kind of 5-week struggle to see will they make playoffs or not. They can still end up, obviously, no matter what ends up happening, if they lose the next several weeks, they're going to come out with a positive record. They can be 8-7 if they lose the next 5 weeks, but this week, Durham Druddigons. Again, this is, like I said, it's going to help determine who's going to help make playoffs. If Carolina Keldios continue to win, they could potentially lose 2 matchups, but as long as they defeat, I believe, like the St. Louis Rampardos when they go up against them, I think it's in like week 13, I want to say 13 or 14 for it, then they will more than likely make playoffs for it. But it's going to be very clutch, so they're in there. If I don't know what you want to call it. Like I said, this is like the struggle period for Carolina. Carolina is in a must-win situation from here on out if they want to make playoffs. If they lose once, it just cannot be to the St. Louis Rampardos, because the St. Louis Rampardos will then have defeated them to make it into playoffs for it. Unless, of course, St. Louis does not win loses at least one matchup, then they can lose to St. Louis and still make it in. If they lose at least 3 matches and like St. Louis loses 2 matches, then Pittsburgh Peaches can make it into the playoffs. So it's, really hard to call. These are like, these top 6 teams right now are, obviously like Durham Druddigons, Real Maril, and very good chance the Bronx Bear Ticks, because those are, of course, like not only the 3 best battling teams so far, but I mean they have had like they've gone really well this season, and I don't foresee any of them. Like, it would be a shocker if the Bronx Bear Ticks do not make playoffs. They're the only one with the lowest record right now. It would be shocking to see if the other two teams even lose for the remainder of the season. All very good matchups in the future for it. It's going to be like, I don't know if it was a coincidence that, well, it had to be a coincidence. This was planned out, of course, 2.5 months ago when they actually made the schedule. But, you have the top like 6 teams kind of battling it out for playoff contention right now. So, that's why these matchups, especially this week, I think this is like the hypest This is the hypest week that we have as far as the matchups go for it, because especially for these last several teams, there's a lot riding on them for it. But that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Let me know, like I said, who you think of these 6 teams between Pittsburgh Pichus, St. Louis Rampardos, the Durham Guns, the Carolina Keldios, Real Maril, Bronx Bear Ticks. Which 4 teams do you foresee being in the playoffs? I mean, it's, will Carolina, go on and continue and win the next 5 weeks to guarantee them spot in it? Will they end up losing? Will St. Louis continue winning and dominate to continue on and maybe even make it into the playoffs? And not only that, but even make it back to the finals again? Will the Pittsburgh Pichus, have the right kind of luck where they have these other 2 teams, lose enough that they can actually make it in? All these questions will be answered over the course of the next couple weeks. So thank you all very much again for watching. Thank you for checking out the video. Don't forget to follow like the UCL on Twitter. You can also follow me there to know when I get these videos up as well. Like I try to get them out every Tuesday and Friday. And as I said in the Week 10 review, of course, when it comes to Week 12 stuff, I'm going to be getting married that weekend. So I probably won't have Week 12 stuff. Or if I do, it's going to be super late, probably Wednesday or Thursday for it. But thank you all very much again for watching. You have yourselves a good day. Take care and goodbye.